Kia ora koutou, and a very good morning to you from a very sunny Central Coast in Australia. You know, it appears to be a very long time since we've all met, but as it turns out, it was only in late November that Asha and I were there in Rotorua to launch our book. And thanks to Napu Manuewaru and Leith Comer, we had the ultimate pleasure of actually releasing the book in Rotorua Boys High School, which is where I first made the acquaintance of people like Gary DeThierry, Chris Grinter, Linda Woon, Lorraine Taylor, Gareth Cunliffe, David McMillan, Briar Stewart, Fred Vata, Linda Gray, Heather Nahu, Marinia Gotts, and so many other people that I've grown to be extremely fond of and hold in the highest regard. And so it's quite fitting that now that the book's been released, and Asha and I are doing a lot of work with that book with the Department of Education in Victoria and with Western Australia, that we thought, hey, maybe it's time to come back to Rotorua and try and talk to all those people, both new and old, who've become part of the creation and the dissemination of being. So here I am, and thanks to Adam Ellis and Leith Comer, I'm going to be spending the next couple of minutes with you folks, telling you about what Asha and I hope is a plan that you will buy into. So first to talk about being, and I know I spent some time in November when we launched the book, talking about the book. So believe me, I'm not going to waste time now. But just to give you in a nutshell, you see, leadership is one of those subjects where every sector has its favorite model or favorite theory or favorite mechanism. You go to the armed forces and it's all about situational leadership. You go to education and it's all about educational leadership. You go to religious institutions and it's all about servant leadership. You go to business, it's all about charismatic leadership or transformational leadership. And you go to politics and it's all about great men theories. Now, the interesting thing is that neither politics, nor the army, nor education, nor any of the others that I've mentioned so far are incorrect. It's just that all those models are incomplete. And given the kind of times we are living in, volatile, uncertain, and unpredictable, I think it's very important that we look at a theory or a repertoire of leadership that not just includes all these different models and theories, but takes us a few steps forward. And that's the basis of being. So when Asha and I wrote Being, it was based on the experiences we had had with all of you folks in Rotorua, with Vodafone New Zealand, with ANZ New Zealand, and of course, the entire Department of Education here in Australia. And based on all that experience, we created this very simple waterfall of what we believe is a leadership repertoire for uncertain times, for what we call the I-connected world. So the first building block of that theory was that leadership is virtuous and it is purposeful. It has to be based on good, strong character. And it has to have practices and actions in those practices that actually deliver results with strong moral backgrounds for the people who have decided to let you lead. So once you've had that core part of the cascade, the next step was to say, okay, so what is a new mindset? Is there a leader's futures mindset? And we said, sure, there is. And that mindset, that worldview, that basic assumption and belief about what good leadership is in an eye-connected world has to have 3 dimensions. Number 1, it's got to understand and appreciate focused attention. It has got to believe in the collaborative spirit. And it has to understand, appreciate, and leverage collective wisdom. So once you have an eye-connected world, leadership that's purposeful and virtuous, and these 3 dimensions of such a leader's futures mindset, the final bit is what are the 5 virtues on which this entire leadership should be predicated. And they are the beings. Leadership needs to be present. It needs to be good. It needs to be in touch. It needs to be creative, and it needs to be inclusive. And under each one of these beings is a plethora of actions. Therein lies the core concept of being. Now, what is it that I would like for Asha and I to do with all of you fine people in Rotorua? It's really, I'd like to renew our connections. I'd like to reconnect with people in Rotorua, not just with some of you august leaders who've been leading your schools for a very long time, and very, very creditably, I must add, but also the emerging leaders, the young and the old and the not so old people within your institutions who are clearly quite special and who are clearly going to be having to use new ways of making sense, interpreting, and thereafter responding to the challenges they find as they go about their daily lives. And for that, in these given times, where this is the best way of communicating with most people, given that the famous bubble is never going to get action till probably middle of next year, we decided to follow a model that's worked very well for us with DET Victoria. And that is to create a series of webinars, 60 to 90-minute sessions, really fireside chats, where Asha and I can take care of one topic, chat about it, invite questions, try and give you answers, connect your experiences to whatever it is that we believe our research and theorizing is telling us, and to see if together we can make more sense of whatever it is that is going to work for the future. So this webinar we thought of as a series of 6 webinars, quite naturally broken up into those 6 parts. The first part around the eye-connected world and the leader's futures mindsets. Thereafter, the next 5 covering the beings, the being good, the being present, etc. in every session that follows. So 6 webinars, 60 to 90 minutes each. And between those webinars, and these webinars can be held once every 2 weeks, once every 4 weeks, it's all based on convenience. And they can be held because it is online and basically to our convenience. We can hold it at any time in the day, in the evening too, whatever works best. And in between these webinars, we can have mentoring sessions or coaching sessions where not just Asha and I, but also some key figures that are in Rotorua and very respected as leaders in the education sector could work with us and provide mentoring for emerging leaders within the sector. And what is required from your end and what is required from Napu Manuaiwaru's end, I think really the way we see it is that ideally, because we are following the book as we conduct these webinars, it would be fantastic if either you had a copy, if you were a participant, you had a copy, or you had access to a copy. So either before the course or before the session or after it, if we were smart enough to get your curiosity engaged, you could go and check and read a lot more about whatever it was that we spoke about on that session. So that's one part. You need access to either the Kindle version of the book or the book itself, or ideally own a copy. That'd be really good for us. And use it as your reference, not just to navigate the webinar, but also to navigate post the webinar in the way you act and react in your schools. That's one part. The other part is covering some levels of costs, and therein a lot of it depends on how many participants we have in any given webinar. Now in Victoria, for example, Ash is doing a session today, and she did one 2 weeks ago, and they were on the average, today's session there are about 365 participants, and the last week was about 240. And so you can see that with that level of participation, costs become quite minimal. And really it's something that we will talk to Napu Manuaiwaru, and Napu Manuaiwaru will probably speak with you folks. And I'm sure that we could get something going that would be sustainable and that would keep your folks engaged and also current in this one area that's really, really close to all our hearts. And I know it's very close to many of you principals' hearts. All right. And keep momentum up in something that we started more than 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago, and take it to the next level as far as people in Rotorua are concerned. So this is the little idea I have, and I just thought I'd put it out there and get you folks to talk about it, and then take it to the next stage, perhaps in a conversation with a few of you on Zoom or WebEx or whatever it is, the platform that you folks love and trust. So take it easy, stay safe, and continue to be Team New Zealand, which is leading the world in this response to COVID-19. God knows they always talk about New Zealand whenever they're talking about how it should be done right when it comes to this crisis. Take it easy, guys, and I'll speak to all of you anon. Bye.